how do we engage people in the process? Like, we talk about how we have low turnout in our voting and our state level elections, for example. Like, how do we get more people to show up? What do we do? What are some thoughts you guys have?
Um, my initial instinct is that, we're going to have a lot better voter turnout as our generation gets older, right? And not just because we're getting older, but because the generation coming after us, I think, is going to be a lot more politically active than even we are. And we're a pretty politically active generation, so to speak. Because I think with the advent of the internet, as you've sort of observed with your own children, right? We have these kids who just they can pick up their phones and look things up instantaneously. It's not like
Yep.
isolated from the conversation, from information. And you also have voter registration becoming increasingly easier to access through online systems, right? So all
Mhm.
of these processes that are traditionally so arduous and bureaucratic are really becoming streamlined and a lot more accessible. So that, I think, is probably my greatest hope. And then I think as you see a lot more, again, like advocates and nonprofit type people and activists stepping into the political world, you're going to see a lot more grassroots organization to help activate sort of traditionally like apathetic, like unregistered voters, and really trying to put them in the system. And I also think we're sort of finally making that intelligent step towards a better democracy, where you're going to have a lot more automatic voter enrollment anyways. So
Mhm.
as soon as you're 18, you are able to vote. Whether you want to register with a party or not, that's on you, but you can show up
Right.
in general, and no one's going to stop you.
Right. Right. Definitely. Um, I think I'd like to see like how what is it, Oregon, Vermont, California, and I don't know if West Virginia. I know West Virginia is always on the list. I don't know if they've actually done it or if they're trying to do it. But going to like even seeing automatic voter registration happening, I think that process. I just like sitting there with my sister and like her friends at school. Like my sister had just finished up her first year at Georgia State University. Shout out to my baby sister. But she was just like, oh, I guess, I'll vote. I said, you have to vote. You turn 18, you got to register. Are you registered? You got to register. You got to vote. And then, I went into my whole spiel with her or whatever. But like, as she started to get involved around her campus, Georgia State is an urban school. It's right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. It's this great resource-rich institution. And then 2 blocks over, you have such severe homelessness and, just destitute conditions of people. And she was just like, I have to vote. And they, like, one of the organizations she's a part of, they held like a candidates forum with representatives from the different organizations, the Young Dems and the Young Republicans. It was so funny. The Young Republican candidate was a black gay man who supported Marco Rubio, and we were so fascinated with him. But he almost had me. He almost had me though, like because when he talked about why he supported Marco Rubio, and he talked about the Republican Party and what it had to offer. I've never in my life considered being a Republican. I voted Republican in state and local elections because they were the better candidate. They had the better ideas and a better plan. But I had never actually considered. So listening to these young people talk, right? Was just phenomenal because they had such a mastery and they had such a mastery of the issues. Like it was before our primary here, we were Super Tuesday primary, so they were just talking about all different candidates and the issues before them, and just listening to that level of discourse, I was like, wow, I was impressed. And my children, I had kids a little young, so my daughter is 14, and sitting there talking to her, I just sit there and look at her. I'm like, okay, what do you kids do for fun? Because she'll sit there and talk to me about this latest issue because this, that, and the other, and did I know about this trade embargo because blah, blah, blah. What are you talking about? And why aren't you supposed to be watching music videos? But they are. They're so active and they're so engaged, and it's amazing to see. And they're determined. Like they can't wait to vote. Like my brother is 7. I have the youngest in our family just turned 18. He was 17, and he could not register. He could pre-register but couldn't actually vote, even though he turns 18 before November. So he's bummed that he didn't get to vote in his primary, but he does get to vote in the general election. So he's really excited about doing that. And I'm just looking at all these younger people, and I'm just like, the fact that they're excited about voting. Like if we could harness that power somehow, right? That excitement. We could bottle it up and spread it around to everybody else. I think we would be in a really good position.
And I've
But
seen that on my campaign trail. I've had a lot of
mhm,
young high school students come up to me and say, "Oh, I can't vote for you, but this summer I'm going to come out and knock on some doors."
that's
So we
great.
met with a few high school students, their young Dem groups. In
Hmm.
fact, Republicans even came to those meetings and we
Yeah,
talked about the issue. And it's just so surprising. Like I was not as intelligent as they were at
I don't
their
think not me. No,
yeah.
I know I wasn't.
Definitely not. So, if the baby boomers were the generation of TV, we were the millennials who got the internet. These are the kids who are just plugged in and got all this information. And so, like, going along with the
Hmm.
spirit of what everyone's saying, automatic voter registration, enabling people to be more part of their democracy. And we need apps where you could open your app, see what your congressperson or state legislature is doing, and see what they voted on, see what they're involved on. I think our generation of millennials will definitely be more plugged in. If I'm in Congress, I'm definitely going to be taking selfies and taking videos. Hey, I'm here. Tell me what you think about this bill I just voted on. What should we add into it? So now you got people more involved, and here you have someone who could throw in an idea, a high school student throw in an idea
Right.
about what they had. See if I'm doing my job in Congress and hold me accountable to it. So, like, more transparency, make democracy fun, make it more active. And I think whoever has that idea and is able to create that app and savvy enough should go ahead and do it.
Awesome.
I definitely agree, and I think democracy is going to become a lot more fun and something you can be engaged in. I think a lot of political leaders are already like really charismatic, and they're kind of they're generally speaking, I not to like build up politicians too much, but we're pretty smart, right? So I think most of us are also pretty funny too. So there's no reason that
Yeah.
you can't put that out there and make a joke every once in a while, and actually like engage as if you're a real person. I think that's something. My background is in marketing, right? So I think that's a trend you can also see in marketing right now. So with like even customer service, like GoDaddy and Google, like their
Right.
like platforms, whenever you call somebody, like you don't just get like this very like standard list of questions. Like I think I ended up talking to somebody at Google for probably a half an hour about the music that I was listening to, like before we even got into like fixing
Right.
the browser. And it just makes a much more pleasant experience, and it's understanding that if you want to tap into the human spirit, you need to just be a human. You need to stop trying to figure out how am I going to target older people and younger people and, match their demographics. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody loves laughter and happiness. Like nobody's going to say no to a good joke or having their voice heard or feeling important or visible. And if you can just make that authentic or have that be already something authentically within yourself, you're not going to have a problem engaging people like in any way. And then another thing to sort of digress a little bit in the conversation was you were mentioning that
Mhm.
yeah, you had mentioned this like Republican, right, that you had spoken to, and you were really impressed with him. And I think that's something, despite the awfulness that is Donald Trump, right, that's something that we're going to see a lot more of with Republicans in the future. Because I actually had the pleasure of meeting a 22-year-old who's a Republican candidate running in Coventry, Connecticut, right? So he's also running for
Mhm.
state representative, and he is, remarkably like pretty like social progressive, like liberal, fiscally conservative, yeah, sure, but at the end of the day, his values are very, very similar to mine, just because that's how our generation
Right.
is raised.
Right.
Um, and that's something that I actually look forward to seeing. I look forward to seeing a Republican Party that is much less partisan, and I think that kind of comes back to, again, a summary of our generation as a whole, right? We're more globally oriented. We are statistically the best educated generation. Like we have more degrees per capita than any generation in human history.
Yeah.
We're less partisan. Like all of these like wonderful qualities build a generation that we're going to just get things done. We're going to get things done and for the right reasons.
I think that's an excellent point, and it goes back to something that all of you have touched on too tonight. Is that we need to look at the values of our communities, of our constituency. We need to look at the values that we need to be holding up and promoting. Um, versus do you vote specifically, with this party or that party? I mean, I understand the need, we have our separate parties, but really reaching people over values, over these issues that affect all of our lives. I think I always tell this story. One of my best friends, going back to West Virginia again, one of my best friends, she and I, it was about 2 years into our friendship. We have kids the same age. We met with our boys and Boy Scouts. Our daughters were in Girl Scouts together. Hit it off because we were the young moms, and that's really difficult being a young mom. We're both professionals, young moms and stuff. Her son came in and said something really bad really negative about Obama. I guess our boys got into an argument about Obama, and she came in. That's when I discovered she was a libertarian. Had no clue because our lives had been as friends. Our lives have been focused around the kids, around the issues in our community. That politics never ever, like the actual political, like I'm this or I'm that. I was unaffiliated in West Virginia, basically an independent voter. So it never came up. But even though we have some issues where we completely are opposite on, politically, for the most part, our conversations and our entire friendship, our entire outreach, anything we've ever done has been focused on these issues that cross over, and they're the big issues, right? Because many of the big issues, in theory, we should all be able to agree upon. And I can't remember which one of you said it earlier in the show, that sometimes people are just partisan for the sake of being partisan and not because they're really looking at the issues and values at stake. And we really need to start trying to push people further away from that and more focusing, looking at the facts and the issues and values that matter.